So she brought a lot of food along.
One item kind of pushing a little bit beyond this battle itself to tie in the NGOs, which we can get into if you want or not. As she moved on beyond this war and some of the others, some of the future advances that she helped with, the creation of the American Red Cross was her doing because of her work here, and then as she continued to tirelessly work and ended up herself with fatigue, and I believe she ended up with typhoid fever that kind of drained her out to where she got pulled back herself to recover. The physician recommended she go on a vacation and relax. She actually went over to Europe. And when she was over there is when she actually ran into the Red Cross organizations that existed over there. And she noticed how helpful they were and what their job was, that she was able to bring those concepts back to the States and help to organize and create the American Red Cross. With that, again, the whole female-male thing, you know, that was one of the things that she created and she worked hard for. But as it continued to get bigger and bigger, she was not the politician, very, very, very strong fighter as far as that aspect goes. Similar when she left the education system, she got replaced by a male in charge of the school system. As she continued on with the Red Cross towards her older years, she too stepped down or got pushed out as the men of the time took over that organization. And one odd fact that we saw that was kind of funny, well, funny now, because we've seen how many wars, how many situations we've been in from then till now. But the biggest thing when she was trying to push for the American Red Cross was all the local politicians and the local governments didn't want to help her on that.
They didn't endorse the establishment of the Red Cross because they didn't see a need, because they didn't foresee any future conflict.
They didn't think the U.S. would ever be in any more conflicts. We've already had our separation from England. We're having our own internal fight. The Americas, they won't be in anything else in the future.
Let me, and just for sake of time, what else? You guys got anything else in NGOs? Here.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, let's hit that.
It wasn't just Clara Burton here at Antietam. There were several other NGOs. The two predominant civil aid organizations here were the U.S. Sanitary Commission and the U.S. Christian Commission, and they were noted for, as we saw, establishing hospitals all throughout the area, and they did whatever they had to do. Sanitary Commission and the Christian Commission are performing a work of magnificent benevolence in the aid they are bringing to the regular medical staff in the Army, and that was by the Baltimore American newspaper. There was also the Hagerstown-based Ladies' Aid Society, and they repeatedly assembled at different houses, sewage band-aids, scraped and lint, and made up such things as would relieve the sufferers from sunup to sundown. You could find them in every nook of the town and through the country, searching and begging and buying such articles as the sufferers might ask or want for. So there was a great support system in the area that filled in a lot of the blanks that the supplies that they were not, when they weren't able to get here. There was also a group of volunteer nurses, volunteer surgeons as well, were integrated into the U.S. military. And at the end of it all, the smaller hospitals were consolidated into larger facilities. Once the soldier was healthy enough, he could be sent to even more prominent hospitals in Frederick or Camp Curtin, Pennsylvania. Soldiers, however, remained in Sharpsburg area hospitals until spring of 1863. So that presence didn't just go away right after the war. They stayed here, and they tried not just to help the Union soldiers, but a huge number of Confederate soldiers that were here left on the battlefield.
Yep. What questions y'all have about NGOs? And one thing to point out really quick, you think about a question if you have one. Today we're going into Operation United Assistance in Africa. What is one of the biggest issues you think we're having so far? I sit on these teleconferences twice a week.
Being unprepared, sir.
the relationship with the NGOs. Now we're introducing, it's not really an NGO, but another kind of medical organization called the Public Health Service into the equation. So that's making things even a little more complex. And so it's 150 years later, we're still fighting these battles. There's a little bit of uneasiness and distrust even between Department of Defense, the military health system, and the public health system. So
What's some of the impacts that Captain Sweden
Okay.
cover say?
Just a quick more on the current, but obviously related to the rest of the world's. Planning considerations when dealing with NGOs. The key things that they have that the military does not. Obviously, they have to work in conjunction together. They both provide resources or concepts that the other doesn't have that combined together makes them much more effective. So the incentive to coordinate and work well together has always existed, and especially now, the Ebola and some of the others that we've had over the years. Even if you look back to where I was at Hood still, and we were participating in Haiti, the same concept. The NGOs need the logistical assistance from the military. They need the communications, they need the intelligence, and they need general protection. The NGOs have that understanding of the ground level of the activity, because most of the places you're going, they're already there. They already have people that exist, whether it's a small Red Cross or a small entity within, whether it's the state for a hurricane or whether it's going across the country like we are looking to do now. They help to manage the population movement, assist with projects, and they work with the humanitarian efforts and kind of keep that out of the way of the military. So those two combined together, working off of each other, because even with the Haiti, I know all the civilians, the money, the physicians, the supplies, they were ready to be there 12 hours later after it was over. But they couldn't get there. The military was waiting to get there. They wanted in. There was a conflict and a fight of getting in. I know the ports just got really overwhelmed with Haiti. You couldn't get the ships in until the military fixed. You couldn't fly in as a civilian because the military had already controlled the airport. So that ability to have to blend those two together is the key thing, whether it was here at Antietam or even now. Nothing has changed in all those years.
and this is really the beginning of that. You haven't seen a lot of that in military medical history up until this point. And so that relationship is uncertain. Letterman and Claire Barton and other folks do a lot to bring that along.
Because the early on with Clara and some of the military was, you're not moving to there, we're going here, you stay here. Their response, and even people nowadays, I'm not in the military. You don't own me, you don't control me. These organizations are run, funded, supported, and controlled by civilians. Now, if they know what's good for them, they need to listen to the military so they don't end up in the wrong spot that gets overrun or shot or killed or blown up. But again, that was that initial battle. The military is like, well, how dare you? And even as a woman, how dare you tell me that you're not going to stay back here where I told you to? It's like, I'm going up there to assist. We're going here, the different organizations. Because the key thing with that during that time was, one of the stats was, for every one killed from battle, 2 more died from disease. Dysentery, diarrhea, typhoid, malaria. So those NGOs, those extra organizations, the comforts, the food, the supplies, the well-being, that was going to save or assist a larger population than those actually would.
Okay, we're gonna have to move on for time's sake. What the questions? It's very good. Outstanding. All right.